Hi, this is Katie Allison from Mid Sussex Sports Therapy, and in this video I'm going to take you through the basic principles of Stott Pilates. So as well as being a sports therapist, I'm also finishing off my training as a Stott Pilates teacher. And so this video is going to take us through each of the 5 basic principles that underpin the process of Stott Pilates. So the first one we're going to go ahead and do is breathing. Breathing is the first of the 5 basic principles. So we're going to go into a seated position on our mats, knees bent, feet flat on the mat, about hip distance apart, and taking a hold of our, putting our hands around the front of our lower legs. We're going to take a nice big deep breath in, and then we're going to breathe out via what we call pursed lips in Stott Pilates, which is basically breathing out as though we're sort of blowing out through a straw. So that's that type of breathing. And during that breathing, with that kind of slightly forced exhale, it helps us engage our abdominal muscles and activate a little bit through the pelvic floor. So the exercise we're going to do is breathing in through our nose and then breathing it out through the pursed lips. And as we breathe out, we're going to flex forward over our knees, eye line going down between the feet, and staying here in a nice flex spine position. Breathing in and breathing out. And on that inhale, feeling like you're expanding through the ribs, through the back of the ribs, back of the side of the ribs, side of the lungs, breathing deeply in all 3 directions, front, side and back. And on that exhale, feeling like the flexion through the spine is increasing as our head and our eye line drop between our knees, and our lower back, mid back and upper back all start to flex and round forwards. And on the next inhale, we're going to slowly start stacking our spine back up, vertebra by vertebra, back into an upright position. We'll go through that one more time. So we're going to inhale, and on the exhale, we're going to curve forwards, bending through the spine. We're going to inhale here and feel our ribs expanding in all 3 directions. And exhale, and then on the next inhale we're going to stack our spines back up, slowly releasing the tension from our head and necks. Then we're going to come down lying on our mats, keeping our knees bent, feet flat on the ground, hip distance apart again, hands down by our sides. Now we're going to take the focus to the second of the basic principles, which is pelvic placement. So in Stott Pilates we have the neutral pelvis and we have the imprinted pelvis. The neutral pelvis, if we take our hands towards sort of the bony part, the front of our hips, and our fingers towards our pubic bone, we want that space between the 2 areas to be flat. We don't want the pubic bone to be pushing up above the bony bits of the front, and we don't want it dropping down below. We want to find a nice flat surface between the 2, and that's our neutral spine. At that point you should also start to feel that there's a little gap between the lower back, the lumbar spine and your mat, and that's your neutral. We're then going to practice rocking this pelvis, rocking it towards you and rocking it away back to that neutral, and in that away you'll feel the spine peel away from the mat, and as we rock it back the other way we feel the lower spine starts to imprint into the mat, and that's our imprinted position. And we're going to use that position when we start taking the legs up into the air. So practice with that, rocking the pelvis backwards and forwards. And that movement, initially you might find that movement comes from more than just sort of from multiple muscles in the body, so from maybe the glutes and the legs are doing some of that movement, but we want to soften that and focus more onto the abdominals. So as we start to rock the pelvis towards us, we want to feel a tightening through our abdominals and our obliques, and a light lifting through the pelvic floor. And as we inhale and go back to our neutral position, the abdominals lengthen, enabling us to do that. So we inhale, and on the exhale, tightening through the obliques, the deep abdominals, and lifting through the pelvic floor to shorten the distance between your hip and your lower ribs, and then back to neutral. Imprinted position and back to neutral. So that's a pelvic placement. We're going to test that pelvic placement now with a little leg lift. So we're going to inhale into our neutral. We're going to exhale, roll the pelvis towards us, tightening through the lower abdominals, deep abdominals and the obliques in that exhale position. We're then going to inhale here. And on the next exhale, we're going to start to hover our right foot off the mat, keeping the focus on the abdominals and the pulling in of our abdominal muscles. Inhale here and then exhale. Foot goes back down again. Inhale, exhale into imprint, and then lifting the other leg off the mat as we inhale and exhale back down. It's a small movement of the pelvis. We're not rocking it to extreme positions. It's a small movement and a small tightening and working of the deep abdominal muscles. The next one we're going to go on to is the rib cage placement. So again, lying on our backs, same position. We're going to start an inhale, take the arms up above our head, and then as we exhale, we're going to take the arms overhead. And exhale back down. And on this movement, we wanted to feel a connection between our ribs through our abdominals to our hips. Our abdominal muscles attached to our hips and to our lower ribs. And so when we take that arm up and away, we want to avoid the rib cage lifting, flaring, doming, and we want to close and relax the rib cage heavy down onto the mat. So as you do that, go through that motion again. As the arm goes overhead, feel that tightening, that connection through the abdominal muscles to the end point of what's comfortable for your shoulders, lifting up and back down, feeling that connection through the abdominal muscles all the way back down to the ground. One more time. The fourth one of the basic principles is now taking us on to what we call scapular stabilisation, or shoulder blades. So our shoulder blades sit on the back of our body, on the back of the ribs, and they're very mobile. Our shoulder blades can slide up, they can slide down, they can rotate out to the side, they can come back together in a retraction, and they can upwardly and downwardly rotate. And so we're going to do some movements that take the shoulder blades through all of those different movements. The first one we're going to do is elevation and depression. So again, feeling heavy on the mat, pelvis sinking into the mat, feet sinking into the mat, hands down by the sides. We're going to elevate the shoulders on the in-breath, and we're going to depress the shoulders back to neutral on the out-breath. The idea with this one is you want to feel the shoulder blades moving up the rib cage and then moving down the rib cage. Then we're going to go the other way and we're going to move the shoulder blades down, depressing the shoulder blades, and then back to neutral. And on the depression, we're going to slide our little fingers along the mat and then return. Slide on the inhale and return on the exhale. And throughout all of these movements, we'll keep an eye on the other basic principles of our pelvic placement. We should be neutral here, our abdominal engagement, our rib cage softening. We're then going to take our arms up overhead and feel the protraction and retraction of the shoulder blades. So we're going to feel like we're lifting our little fingers away as the shoulder blades protract around the rib cage, and slide the shoulder blades then back to the neutral position. So protract, inhale, retract back to neutral. Then we're going to go the other way. We're going to retract and back to neutral on the exhale. On the retraction, we're squeezing the shoulder blades together on the back of the body and then allowing them to slide back to neutral. Last one. Back to neutral. We're now going to take our arms into some arm circles to practice that upward rotation and downward rotation of the shoulder blades. So hands down by our sides again, palms flat on the floor. Inhale, arms coming round, up and over, and down. Feeling the abdominal connection, the ribs softening, pelvis in neutral still. And then the arms going the other way. Inhale. And exhale and circle the arms round. Feeling the shoulder blades moving up and back down. Last one. Okay, now we're going to move on to the last, the fifth of the 5 basic principles, which is head and cervical placement. So many people find that they like to use a pillow, something like this, underneath their head. So you pop it underneath the bony part of your head, at the base of the spine, base of the neck, base of the skull, so that there's still a gap for the neck, so the neck is free in that particular position. And so the idea of putting the sort of small pillow underneath the head is it releases the tension through the neck and through the head when we're doing the movements, doing the exercises. For some people, they might find that this size is absolutely fine, or you might need a thicker pillow to go underneath the head and neck. So the exercise we're going to do is called the head nod, and it's a really small movement. I'm looking directly up to the ceiling now, and the head nod is when I slowly start to look as I follow my eye line down the ceiling to where the wall, top of the wall meets the ceiling. So I've done a little head nod. I've still got a nice gap between my chin and my chest. I can place my fist, or like an apple, between my chin and my chest. There's a nice gap there. And then I take my head and eye line back straight up ahead. And then I head nod and back up to the ceiling. So the idea is that the head nod creates a lengthening through the back of the neck, a lengthening through the back of the neck as the chin comes towards the chest, but not pushing down into the chest, kind of creating that double chin. The idea is you still keep that fist-sized sort of gap between the chin and the chest. As the head nods, the back of the neck lengthens and the eye line goes towards sort of the top of where the wall meets the ceiling. So you inhale and exhale back to neutral. Inhale, head nod, and exhale back to neutral. And as I say, you really want to feel as though it's a lengthening through the back of the neck. And the idea with the head nod is it puts the head and the neck, the cervical spine, in alignment with what the rest of the spine is doing. So for example, if we're going into an ab prep exercise where we're curling forwards, the spine is flexing, we're not over extending the neck, we're not over flexing the neck and creating tension. The neck follows us with the flexion, so we are flexing the neck, but not overly so. We're still keeping that fist or apple size between chin and chest, and we're taking the eye line, as I said before, towards the top of the wall and the ceiling, and then we're coming back down again. And the idea in all of our movements is that the head and cervical spine follow what the rest of the spine is doing, whether that's in an extension movement or in an flexion movement. It stays aligned. So that takes us through all of the 5 basic principles of Stott Pilates. And in each of the exercises that we carry on to do, we need to keep in mind each of those 5 different basic principles. So we keep in mind our breathing, in through the nose and out through those pursed lips. We keep in mind our pelvic placement, whether we're in an imprinted spine or whether we're in a neutral spine. We keep in mind our abdominal engagement and a slight lifting of the pelvic floor as part of that pelvic placement. We keep in mind our rib cage placement, that we're flattening and relaxing the ribs. We're not doming or overarching through the ribs. And then also our shoulder blade stabilisation, that we're activating the muscles on the back of the body to stabilise the shoulder blades when we're moving through any of the different flexion or extension movements. And then finally, the last one is that head and neck placement, that our head and neck are following the spine in whatever movement that they're doing, and that their head and neck is not overflexed or overextended and creating tension. We want there to be sort of a tension-free or relaxed state through the head and neck. So those were our 5 basic principles of Stott Pilates. Thanks for watching.